Director at Kendor Consulting, and it is a pleasure to be here, especially as it's the first one of the year. Feel free to type into the chat. So we always welcome people from all over the world. It would be nice to know where the furthest person is signing in from. So we're letting people in. It's 1 o'clock and we're ready to begin. Today is very interesting one. And just like we bring you, if this is your first time, we focus on HR trends for HR professionals or people management, really. So whether you're in HR or whether you're a line manager or you manage people somehow, which I believe is all of us, you will find our Stay Trendy webinars very useful. So where is everyone from? Where are you signing in from today? Today we have a very, I'll allow him to introduce himself. I'm not doing this by myself. At Kendor, we like to feature speakers, people who have lots of knowledge and bring value from, different areas. As long as it's around people management, we're happy to host. So today, oh, somebody signing from Abuja, Lagos. Okay, good. I'm looking out for someone who is really far, really, really far away. Good. Port Harcourt. So we still have a lot of people. Anyone from outside Nigeria, let's give you a welcome. We're welcoming the people from Port Harcourt and Abuja. Fantastic. Lagos people, fine. Lagos, Abuja. Good. So again, this is the first of the series. This is the Stay Trendy webinar series. Today we have a speaker, and our very, very first session is very apt in terms of the title. The subject matter is about trends. What should we expect as HR professionals, as people managers in 2024? And with us to help us here is well, I'll allow him to introduce himself. So can you introduce yourself? Yes. So Josh, I don't want to, okay, but I'll just give it a try. Joshua, I didn't want to.
You tried. That's good.
Yeah, I know. I'm quite good with, I'm not bad, when it comes to names. Yeah, definitely. Over to you, Josh. I know today we'll be talking, you're here to tell us some great stuff about what to look out for in terms of people management, HR, or as HR professionals in 2024. So I'm really looking forward to this session. So I'm handing over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adora. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I mean, it's great. I've known Kendor Consulting for a while, and you're doing great work. So well done. To you, Adora, and to the Kendor team. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. My name is Joshua Demuwagu. I work with KPMG, West Africa. I'm an associate director with KPMG. You can see the lights behind me. I'm in the office, right? So it's been a very exciting ride. Worked with Philips Consulting in the past, worked with Outside HR in the past, so worked with some other organizations and some other consulting firms. In total, I would say that I've been in the consulting space for about 16 years, and then all the other things I've done in my life, if you were to put them together, maybe about 20 years thereabout, in terms of work experience. I'm excited to be here because I always count it a huge privilege to speak to people about something I'm extremely passionate about, which, of course, HR falls into that bucket, right? I've prepared some slides, so I'm just going to share my slides, and then we just run through this very quickly. I'm glad to take your questions. Please let me know when you can see my slide. You can see my slide?
Yes, we can. I can.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Okay. So I usually tell people that I'm not the regular HR guy, right? Because I understand that the world we live in now, HR has gone beyond, hire this person, train this person, in some balances, fire this person. You know, HR has become extremely strategic. And by virtue of my work experience and what I do at the moment in KPMG, you know, I work with businesses from different facets of life, different industries, different sectors, and we are advising, you know, their clients and having conversations with them about how to shape their HR profession and to shape the various initiatives that the HR strategy has teased out for them to execute, for them to be able to be successful in a particular year or a particular period. And one of the things we found, you know, just leveraging our experience working with clients across board, and also, you know, just also relating with the global landscape, you know, around what are the things happening globally and what are the implications of those happenings on the HR space, the people space, how people are going to sort of relate with each other in the workplace, you know. And there are a number of trends that we found. In this presentation today, I would just very quickly take you through a number of things, a number of thoughts that I believe would be, some of them will be conversation starters, some of them you might even be aware of them. For some of them, you might be hearing for the first time. But again, I understand that they will tell you that the most critical skill in the 21st century, right, is the ability to learn, to relearn, and to unlearn, right? The fastest way you can do these three things would be a leverage in the world of work today. And so, saying the same thing to all our wonderful participants from different parts of the world and saying welcome and let's go on a very interesting journey. I'd like to introduce my presentation with a quote by Jack Welch. Jack Welch used to be the chairman and CEO of General Electric. I mean, died in 2001. Remarkable man, written lots of very remarkable books that I would advise that if you can lay your hands on, you can read, you know. And one of the things he said that, I mean, strongly resonates with me and with what we're talking about today is the fact that he said, if the rate of change on the outside, and he was talking about organizations, nations, but organizations in this case, if the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end is near for that organization. I'll say that again. If the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end is near. What does this mean? It simply means that organizations must become extremely, extremely nimble, must become extremely open to change, and must be trying to understand what is happening outside so that they can understand the implications, the things happening outside on their internal organization, and then they are remodeling, they are refocusing, they are changing as much as possible to be sure that they are able to adapt to whatever is happening, right? Possibly being able to see ahead, think ahead. That is the demand that we now have as either people managers or HR people. We must be able to see ahead, think ahead, you know, for our organizations, and then become that strategic advisor to our business. So that at the end of the day, we are not just individuals who they will consider as cost centers, but individuals who they would see as in the people bringing real value to the table. Okay, and in the spirit of that, I also remember hearing a quote by a very popular man by the name Peter Drucker. You know, Peter Drucker is one of the most respected management consultants that has ever lived. And one of the things he said was that we are in that era of massive complexity, accelerating change, you know, huge competition, and an era of lightning communication. I mean, things are changing very fast. You know, some years back, very frankly, when a new version of a phone comes out, you know, a model of a phone comes out, I guess the next time you've seen another one will be in 2, 3 years. But that's nobody's issue. I mean, now you're having more than 2 or 3 versions of a particular, you know, brand, you know, produce phones and people are buying, you know. And same thing with cars. Before, I mean, my dad used to own one car. I don't know how many of us remember that car. I mean, if you remember the car and you have it in your home, it should be in the museum. I tell you, they used to call it Mercedes-Benz 230. Then after a while, they created one with some lines at the side called Silver Shadow. You, you know, those cars were so strong because you buy it and you would use it for years. At the point they called it Mercedes-Benz's greatest mistake because you buy the car, you're not buying another Mercedes-Benz. You just keep using it. But that's no more the case. Now, new models of cars are coming out every year, right? Telling us this is just the era we're in. Competition is now global. You're competing with people in China for talent. You compete with people in UK, in Canada, in different parts of the world for talent. So competition is global, and things are no longer as simple as they used to be before. You now talk about wicked problems, right? So things are getting more complex. And of course, communication is becoming as fast as the click of a button. So all of this define the era we live in. And with that in mind, the things that I'll just touch on this afternoon very briefly. Well, I'm going to touch on the global economic landscape, understanding what's happening on the outside. Then I'll narrow it down to the implications of this, where HR is concerned or people management is concerned. So talk about the 2024 HR trends. And I'll talk about what we should be thinking about and we conclude, right? In terms of the global economic landscape, right? In the just concluded, and I mean, that was just last week, we had the World Economic Forum Davos 2024 happen. Now, at Davos, they said about 56% of the chief economists who attended that particular conference or summit, right, said categorically that the world economy is predicted to weaken in 2024. So, I mean, you look at what's happening to us in Nigeria, you look at what's happening to us in different parts of the world. So, you're talking about the war in Gaza and, the Gaza war, Israel, and the Hamas. You're talking about the war in Russia and Ukraine. It's still on. People have forgotten that war is not happening because Israel and Gaza and so Hamas are having their fight. That war is still on. Even within Africa, there was, different challenges economically. For us in Nigeria, for those in Nigeria, two very big issues is inflation, right? Inflationary pressure and the unstable economic exchange rates that we have. I mean, as of yesterday, I think I was hearing in the market, the dollar was about 130 something, 100 and 300, 1,300 and something naira, to a dollar. So, I mean, things are getting very interesting, for want of a better word, right? And what this does is that there are implications on the standard of living of Nigerians and the standard of living of people globally. Now, this is not only it's no longer a Nigerian issue; it's now a global issue, right? And these things have implications on human capital development as a whole. Now, when you look at the global landscape, one of the things you discover, and I mean, just from studying it, I've discovered 4 key factors are driving a lot of the changes we'll find. And those changes are also impacting the way we manage people and the HR profession. So we're talking about one, technology. Of course, technology is being infused. You're talking about ChatGPT now. You're talking about AI. It's now a topical, issue. You're talking, very, very strongly about a lot of, different kinds of ATS, that's an applicant tracking systems, to just crash the way recruitment is done, change the way recruitment is done, training. People are now talking about virtual reality as one of the methods that we should be embracing. And not to even talk about things like machine learning. And then people are beginning to say, you know what, let's move a lot to self-service through our HRS. That's how, those conversations are happening, and technology is impacting the speed at which organizations are transitioning. The implication is that some people would either lose their jobs, right? And then also it means that some people will need to be trained to be able to manage this technology. Globalization is, of course, this has been happening for a while. As I said earlier, competition is now global. The company you're competing with, or the company your organization is competing with, is not necessarily in Nigeria anymore. It's somewhere in Canada, somewhere in Timbuktu, And what the implication of that is that you have to raise the bar, and you have to be thinking global while you are acting local, right? COVID-19. Well, we said that's COVID-19. Well, at Davos, They're talking about the possibility of another variant, another disease, a pandemic, surfacing, right? And even if we ignore that and we just focus on COVID-19, what COVID-19 has done. So we're talking about now, the great um, the name they call it now, got it. Now the great people are leaving their jobs basically. The great resignation, exactly. The great resignation. People are having that. For what happened during COVID-19, people had the opportunity to think about their lives, to think about the things they were passionate about, to think and ask themselves, this life is not that difficult, you know? And then COVID-19 sort of just opened up the world to different possibilities. So there are conversations around flexi work, hours now. People are asking and demanding for those type of things as part of it. Ask you, okay, you want to hire me? Yeah, is flexi working? Is it a possibility in your company? If you say no, then people are talking about, okay, let's move on. And it's a topical issue. It's impacted culture, impacted a lot of things. And then social policies have become huge, right? So people tell you that I want to work with you, but I have this, there are things I am concerned about, i.e., climate change, and what is your organization doing in that space? And you're wondering, what's our business with climate change? And they're telling you, well, if it's something I'm passionate about, if your organization is doing anything in that light, then yes, I'm for you. Then you're talking about LGBTQ and gender diversity. You're talking about, equality, talking about different kinds of conversations that are mirrored around social policies. They are beginning to come to the fore. Previously, it was Black Lives Matter, and all of that. Now, what those things are doing, these four forces, what they are doing is that they are driving and causing radical shifts in how we live and how we work. And the implication of that is that all of these have produced the trends that we're going to observe in 2024. From studying a lot, having conversations, and looking internally as an organization, we've come to the conclusion that 2024, there is going to be a rise in 9 key things, right? And organizations must focus on these trends if they want to survive and, more important, thrive. You know, Number one, there's going to be more migration happening. More migration. I mean, there's nothing we can do to stop it. Now, according to statistics that we have, 52% of skilled employees in Nigeria intend to quit their jobs and relocate abroad within the next 12 months. 52%. Think about it. 52. So this is, of course, some will be successful, some will not be. But the intention from our survey, 52% are saying, you know what, I'm done. And this, all of the things happening around is impacting this. So migration would increase, right? You'll be amazed that I've even discovered now the trend is people are, if UK, Canada, and all those things are too difficult, people are migrating to other African countries. you know. Then number two, when you look at the workplace demographic, right, what you find is that there'll be more individuals in the Gen Z category coming into the workplace. Now, Gen Z talks about people born between 2001 and 2020. More of them will be coming into the workplace, right? What is the implication of that? The implication of that is very simple. The way we relate and the way we engage employees must change. You can't engage Gen Z individuals the way traditionalists, the baby boomers, even Gen X or even the millennials are being engaged. Preferences and what they are looking for is different. So, I mean, these people are a lot more tech savvy. I remember my 9-year-old son. I mean, the way he takes a tab and the way he's turning, you give him your phone. He's Googling, downloading what he wants, doing and I'm wondering, when I was this guy's age, what did I even know how to type on the typewriter, not even a computer? But things are changing. So the mindset and the orientation is different. The Gen Z individual wants to get into the workplace, work for you in the morning through afternoon. When the person closes by 5, the person says, you know what, in the night, I play a guitar in a nightclub somewhere. And you must understand it, right? In fact, so, I mean, that you cannot frown at that. If you frown at that, the person will leave your job and go and be playing guitar permanently. So, Person wants to come to the office and say, yeah, I work for you, but I'm a fashion designer. I design clothes. So in fact, are you interested in buying something from me? And this never used to happen in the past. There is a rise in the demand for flexible working. And yes, people are talking about that. And I won't talk too much about that. I'm sure it's already a reality for a lot of people, right? Then upskilling and reskilling the workforce has become a necessity, has become a necessity. Why? I mean, according to the World Economic Forum again, they say by 2025, about 50% of the workforce will need to be reskilled. And that's just the reality, right?
Okay, I think his network must be having network issues. So let's just give him a little while. We'll be back shortly. Okay, it's back. You are muted.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, sorry,
Okay,
sorry. Yeah.
all right.
Oh,
Welcome.
thank you. Sorry. My network. Okay. So, okay. I'm back. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
We can.
Great, great, great. So I was saying that there's a need to upskill and reskill the workforce. Now, if you're an HR person or a people manager, what that means to you is that you must start to think about the future skills that would exist in the near future as much as you are concentrating on now. As we work with organizations to develop things like competency frameworks, right? One of the things where people are asking for is now, yes, why you tell us the technical competencies for today? You tell us the behavioral competencies for today. Also talk to us about future skills and future competencies because it's now critical and very important. Now, staff retention. And just before I go away from upskilling and reskilling, the way it's going to be executed is changing too. I spoke about virtual reality, AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality for trainings. You know, people are now talking about, machine learning has come in. People are talking about micro learning. Don't put me in a class and teach me for 8 hours and talking. Can we have this thing in bit sizes? 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Those are the conversations coming to the fore. Staff retention, of course, is now very critical and key. Why? I mean, as you upskill your people and you help them to develop and become better people, what that automatically means is that competitors will come for them, right? So you must also put in place mechanisms to keep your people. Huge part of that is pay. So there are lots of conversations around pay, right? And other initiatives to engage your people, how you reward them, how you get them, excited about working for you and staying with you. The growth in generative AI is another trend that you will find. This is, of course, ChatGPT and AI. ChatGPT is pushing a lot of the boundaries around this. What is the policy of the organization around the use of ChatGPT to do things that are related to your office? Those are conversations that you must start to think about if you've not started to think about it and begin to put certain things in place to manage it, right? HR technology, I've spoken about that. Strikes and industrial actions, that this year would increase. And organizations must be very, especially those organizations that are unionized. This becomes very critical because as conversations around pay, employees will be pushing for more pay. And what that does is that, of course, companies will be looking at their bottom line to manage the demands of the employees and the reality on ground. And so there is the huge tendency for strikes and industrial actions to increase, and office experience becomes something also to look at. So how do you create an office? So while people are clamoring for people to come back to work, to the office, and trying to manage flexi working hours and what's happening in that space. The office experience must be thought about by the HR people. I mean, how do you want to organize your office? How do you want to make your office somewhere where individuals would like to come and stay? Now, these are 9 trends. What should we be thinking about as I conclude? I think number one, the talent management strategy of organizations. You must review it. Think about it. How do I manage talent from recruitment to exit? Such that as people come in, the onboarding process and how they are managed, their entire career is managed. And even when they want to leave, let them leave as ambassadors and not necessarily as sworn enemies of the business. Number two, change management has become a critical competence for HR people to develop and embed in their business strategy. Very critical, change management, because a lot of things will be changing. How do we go through the various, take people through the change curve very seamlessly? That will be something for HR people and people managers to think about. Number three, knowledge management, such that knowledge is trapped within the organization. And as people leave, rather than fighting people, right? If you are able to manage expectations and you know that, well, we've managed the knowledge, as long as the knowledge retains the skills and the competences remain within our organization. Yes, people are training people are mentoring programs, training programs, coaching programs, organizations, and systemize how to trap knowledge. Those things must become key conversations for HR people. Of course, reward and recognition needs to be relooked. I won't speak too much about that because I know that is something very key and huge for businesses, right? And of course, as because of the cost of living crisis that is happening, you must start to think about what is our response in very creative ways. Do you want to get a staff boss? Do you want? Just think about things, creative ways to ensure that people. The cost of living is you can, as much as you can, lessen the impact of that on people, and at the same time they're able to still deliver value to your organization. Number 6, skilling and upskilling employees to survive in this technology and AI-driven world is sacrosanct. The solution is not reduce the training budget. The solution is what are other creative ways that we can ensure people are still getting trained, their CPD hours are being clocked in, and more importantly, people are being enabled to add value to the organization. And then you must embrace technology as much as you can. This cannot be oversaid, right? Now, in conclusion, I just tell you a story about 2 men, Robert Scott and Roald Amundsen. These 2 men, they were involved in what they call the race to the South Pole. At the South Pole, of course, the Southern Hemisphere, the very cold regions of the world, right? So they started out to travel to the South Pole, and they were in this, even though it was not obviously said, but there was this competition of who will get to the South Pole first. Now, I tell you what both of them did. For Amundsen, he laid out a specific plan regarding his journey, how long they will travel. Now, if you've ever gone, if you traveled to Canada within the last few weeks, you know how terrible the cold is. It's terrible. Even the UK, terrible. Now imagine going to the South Pole. It's whatever. This is minus 30, it's terrible, really terrible. Now, he understood the harshness of the weather, created a plan, told himself, this is how much we'll travel every day. This is where we'll camp. This is what our people will eat. This is, well planned out. And he set out on his journey. Scott, on the other hand, a man from the UK, decided, all this planning might not really be necessary. Let's just keep going, right? Right? Well, as we meet every challenge, we find ways to surmount the challenge, and let's hope for better days in the future. At the end of the day, guess who got to the South Pole first, and who got to the South Pole in one piece? Of course, you know the answer. Amundsen did, right? And Roald Amundsen said, victory awaits him who has everything planned and ordered out. What am I trying to say? Very simple. You see, 2024 is like a blank slate, right? there are pointers to the different things that will happen. The government is doing what they can. Different governments of nations are doing what they can. And businesses are trying to do what they can. As HR people or people managers or custodian of managing people, it's our responsibility to sit down, ask ourselves very important questions. From our understanding of what is happening, we cannot ignore what is happening and say, what, let's just be going. We'll figure it out when we get there. We must sit down, come up with a plan, think about the future, and think about the now, and also be a step ahead in terms of organizing our organization to be enabled to not only meet these challenges, but to surmount the challenges successfully. We must be bringing as much value as the CFO would do, right, to the table. That way, I believe that we would be leveraging the trends to our advantage rather than letting the trends happen to us. Thank you so much for listening to me. I think I'm open to questions if you have them. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Joshua. I'm sure lots of people have questions. I definitely could resonate with quite a number of the things that you said. I don't think there's anyone who will not resonate with those mega trends that we're all part of, from migration to the Gen Z in the demography. There's just so many issues. So I'm going to look through the chat. Please feel free, everyone, drop your questions in the chats. If you want to speak, you have a good connection, why not? Raise your hand and we'll unmute you, right? So we'll try that. Or should I ask whether we plan for that? Yeah, I love the bit you mentioned about planning as well. I think it's something that we take for granted, and it's a different style. And I think even on an individual level, some people want to go with the flow, right? So there's an aspect of us that wants to be a bit risque and go with the flow. And then, of course, you have people on the other side who are just some people who are very meticulous and they plan everything to the last, to the very last. So I'm looking out for questions. And feel free. If there's, is anyone's hand up? Let me just check, just in case. We have a lot of people here, way over 200. So, or let me just see whether we can type. I don't know whether they want to type or whether they want to speak, but we're looking out for people. Yes, so someone has a question. First question.
Okay.
That's Vivian. She would like to ask, what kind of conversations should we be having as HR managers about using ChatGPT to get work done within our organizations? That's a fantastic question. Yeah, so over to you, Joshua.
All right, thanks, Adora. Thanks, Vivian, for that question. It's a very interesting one. A very interesting question. So you see, I work in consulting, and I know Adora can resonate with this, right?
I know how many questions I've asked ChatGPT today. So I'm not going to. I'm going to tell you. I know how many questions I've asked ChatGPT today.
I'm telling you. ChatGPT is just one of them. There are lots of
course, exactly. Yes.
Solutions, right? So what typically would happen? I would say number one, the very first thing is, what is the policy of your organization around the use of ChatGPT? So that's the first thing, right? Then the second thing is, see, it is a reality in our world today. People have come to that place to understand that, leveraging AI and AI tools, right, just simply makes my life easier. It's like telling people that, work from, I don't know, if you live in Lagos, maybe if you work on the main island, live on the, mainland. It's like telling people that rather than use a car, just keep using your legs, or keep using the bike. If there is a technology that makes life easier for us, why don't we leverage it, right? But again, I would say that what you should just simply do is that you should be very careful around the way you use ChatGPT. Because you understand that, number one, whatever you put in ChatGPT, right, becomes information that anybody else can access. because when people to ask similar questions, it's going to just pull out. It's pulling from different sources, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, if you work in an organization where you're being a custodian to client information, right? You cannot put client information on ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
So those are some caveats. So
Mm.
I really think that what kinds of conversations should we be having about it? I think we cannot really stop using it. For example, in KPMG, we've developed our own, right? Right? Because we discovered that this is something, it's not a battle you can really win. Right?
Mm.
So yes, people can use it, but what's the policy of the organization? What is your organization involved in? And that is fine. So what is the alignment around how we can use this? You cannot ignore it. That's what I'm just saying. You can't
Yeah.
ignore it. Rather, create a policy around it such that it is used intelligently. And then, you can use it to advance, the course of your business rather than if you keep quiet about it, people will still use it and they'll download it on their phone.
Yeah. The truth of the matter is, just like you rightfully said, you can't ignore it. It's part of it's a game changer. I know that we have a session coming up, in February around AI. It's a game changer.
Yes.
If you ignore it, you're going to be left behind. But you
Absolutely.
have to, and I agree with you totally, you have to set policies. And that's what quite a number of countries are trying to do with artificial intelligence, because they know how powerful it is, right?
Oh, yeah.
But at
Yes.
the same time, they know how, I don't know, want to use the word dangerous it can get without
Absolutely.
any kind of governance. So you have this, you have some people who are like all for it, like, you know what, let it be. But at the same time, some people say no. And you're given a fantastic scenario like client information, because you can also feed it with information. I tend to
Exactly.
do a lot of questions. I ask it a lot, for me, it's questions, especially around things I already have an idea, because ChatGPT also makes mistake depending on the data that it has been fed.
It has done it.
I've used it several times and it gives you wrong data. I have caught out ChatGPT. Let me even make you laugh. I asked a simple question: who is the founder of Kendall Consulting? It didn't even get that right. Let me just show you how flawed it can be. You have to be very careful.
Yeah.
And guess what? I asked, are you sure? And then he said, you know what? It actually came back with my name. And he said, actually, yes, it did. Yes, it did. But it got it wrong the first time. And I questioned it. Are you sure? And, it apologized and gave me, So that's just,
garbage out.
You have to be very careful with it. So if you don't know how to use it, then you're in for and then like you said, it copies a lot of data. And if you're working with other people on the same job, all of you are going to have the same type of material. And that wouldn't look good to a client.
Exactly. Because the client can just put it on and say, wait.
Yes, exactly. And I think I don't want to go into that, but that's the issue we're getting in recruitment now. Because when you ask people to do assessments, especially when they can go and come back, they're writing similar things. And because they're using it. So, that's a different story altogether, but, I think we get the picture. So let's take another question, because I know there's lots of questions. Please, we need to refresh the questions. If you have your hands up, that might be easier, because I know lots of questions have been coming and we may, we could actually miss them in the chat. So another question, you could check the questions as well, Joshua, just in case you're faster than me.
Okay, no worries.
So that we are not, I don't know whether there's any ChatGPT for this or AI. Yeah. So anyone can raise their hand, but I think people just prefer to maybe chat. So let's look for another good, all the questions are great. So let's have another.
I see this one.
Yeah.
So Moturaya says, aside promotion, salary increase, succession plan, and the likes that help with talent management, how do we handle this recent brain drain affecting the workforce as an HR personnel to avoid huge turnover? Moturaya, I mean, I'm sorry, we can do as much as we can do. How am I not even sure you, Moturaya, are planning to travel out? So so this is what I always say, right? Um, the truth is, your business can only do what it can do, right? The challenges with people traveling out, the brain drain matter, is it goes beyond an organization, to be sincere. It's more, that's why I started by talking about what is happening globally. I narrowed it down to Nigeria, at least for those of us who are living physically in Nigeria. So people are just looking for greener pastures, right? And if when people are looking for greener pastures, I mean, they can be working. I mean, I've heard of a bank manager, even though you can say that they have targets that are very weird, but it was handsomely paid, right? And he's still jackpot, you know. So, what can you do as an HR person? What you can do really is just ensure that you're doing as much as you can, do all the right things in your environment, right, in the organization. At work, I mean, you can't even with salary increasing. I mean, salary increase has to be visible. You have to look at that vis-a-vis the ability of the organization to pay. They're not going to pay people salaries that have not been made, right? So even with that, so yes, you want to consider that, but you're also thinking about the health of the organization, because as an HR person, you are not only thinking about the employee, you're thinking about the organization. If the organization does not exist, you're not going to be managing anybody. So they are looking at both angles and seeing how you can create a win-win scenario as much as possible as you advise the business, you know. So you
Yeah.
create succession plans, create all of those things as much as you can. But very frankly, there at certain levels, there is very little you can do.
I
If I
think, I mean, I would definitely agree with what you said on that. And I'd like to add that, especially when it comes to the migration, especially, I mean,
yeah,
people are migrating. It's a general trend everywhere.
yes,
But
yeah,
if we want to look at maybe the migration from Nigeria, aka Japa, the truth is that it's an economic decision
yeah,
for the most part. I think people have to come to the reality that, especially organizations, there's nothing you could have done. If
yeah,
usually a family will make a decision to leave the country, you
exactly.
know, a person they've made an economic decision. They're looking at lifestyle, they're looking at standard. There's so many factors they're looking at. It's
Hmm.
beyond pay. It's
Hmm.
beyond, that people are looking for other things. Some people are looking for experience. Some people are
Yeah,
looking for healthcare. Some people are just looking for something else. And
exactly.
so you can't retain someone who doesn't want to be retained, you know.
Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
no, it's a losing
Absolutely.
battle.
Yeah.
Whereas, on the other hand, you can be proactive. And I love I almost wish we can refer back to your slide on knowledge management.
Yeah.
Ensure that the knowledge is retained, not the person, right? So put in systems. So when we talk about succession planning, that's a way
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that the knowledge is retained, or your knowledge management systems. What do
That's
you have in place? Your standard operating procedures, the
yeah.
system that functions and makes your business run. What is it? Do you know it? You want to preserve your systems,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
People execute the systems, but the systems are what make the magic.
Yes.
So that should be something. It should make us more systematic in retaining
Yes.
the knowledge and the competencies. The people, I agree with you, do your best and leave the rest.
Yes. Absolutely.
Do your best
Absolutely.
and leave the
Absolutely.
rest. Yeah.
Absolutely. The
Let's
battle has
take another question because we still have good
okay.
time. Thank you.
So Chinaya says, I am new in the talent development arm of HR. What training or books do I need to be competent at my job? I love to be good at what I do. My industry is the oil and gas industry. Okay. So yeah, so talent development. That's I mean that's what some organizations will call that learning and development. Some call it training. Some will call it different things, right? Some have
Yes.
academies. Some just relate and deal with this as a department. So what trainings or books can you? I mean, so typically there are lots of very good books. You know that you could find on talent development really. and the process around talent development. Very frankly, I would even say before you go into trainings and books, right? You can even start from even Googling. Just Google talent development, right? You would find models on talent development, different things around coming up with a talent, training needs analysis, developing a competence front. You'll find some things online. I mean, that's very elementary, and I'm sure you're not going, well, except for your data, you're not paying for that, right? Just a good phone, and you can do that. So I think that's one place to start from. Then you can look out for trainings. I don't know if Kendall Consulting offers trainings like that on learning and development and training, and make sure that find a way to be part of it, even if the organization decides not to pay. Save the money and pay for it, right? I mean, I've done all manner of trainings in my life. Check me out on LinkedIn. People see battery of training. A lot of those things I paid for it myself, but it speaks, right? Because it helps you to be better at your job, and then people will recognize you. And I always tell people this: any money you spend on training, if the
Yeah.
training is a good one, you will make the money back. So don't worry about it. Just as an investment into yourself.
Fantastic. And
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah. So
good.
that's yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. I would love to add to that, especially in the talent development space. One of the key things that can set you apart are knowing the different career paths, the competency requirements
Mm,
available in the talented. A great place to start is the Association of Talent Development, ATD.
yeah.
Aside the HR bodies, it actually focuses on talent development.
Yes.
So go to the ATD website
Mhm.
and look through it. It has a competency framework which outlines all the competency around talent development, and it also has career pathing. You can actually choose a path because,
But
for example, there's e-learning, there's
yeah,
there's actual
different
talent
paths.
development, there's training delivery and facilitation, there's training learning design and development.
Yes.
It's broad. So if you ATD will have everything.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
what I'd say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I
You
see
have
a comment
a
here.
question?
A
Yeah.
comment by Peter. HR must take information security very seriously. Okay, I think it's a comment, right? As we get exposed to various kinds of AI tools, attack have become. I agree with you. Absolutely, I agree with you, Peter. That's
Yeah.
extremely so. I mean, IT security. Lots of cyber threats and all of that happening. So yes, I absolutely agree. I don't see any other question. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyone has any other questions or raise your hand? Let's check in with the participants, if anyone is in a speaking mode today, because we still have time. We still have about 10-12 minutes
Yeah.
till time up. So this is a good lunch break type of learning and development activity
Yes.
for us. So if we still have time. I mean, just even speaking, like, could you share that slide again on the trends? Because I think it will
Okay.
trigger people's, yeah. It's a very
Yeah.
good slide. So we can recap on those trends that you mentioned, because they're definitely, I mean, that's where we should be looking. Yeah. So just to remind people, I mean, migration, flexible working is a big one. Of course, upskilling and reskilling. We just talked about staff retention.
Yes.
We've talked about AI. Well, HR technology is a good one as well. I think that should be one people are speaking about, now, because
Mhm.
I think we're moving fast. I think it's like AI is like, when
Mhm.
there's primary one and then you're moving to primary 5, right?
Yeah.
So it's like some
Yeah.
people we're jumping some classes. It's like double
Classes.
triple
Yeah.
function. Where are we
Mhm.
on HR technology, especially in the HR space? How many people here are using technology? Maybe we should do a poll. Like,
Mm.
that's key. Have we
Very
automated our processes, or are we still using paper and files? Right?
well.
Where are we
Exactly.
there? Yeah.
And what I would always say where HR technology is concerned, as we did the poll, is that you know, with it, technology itself, right, simply means a way of doing something better, faster, cheaper, right?
Yes.
So in some cases, we might not necessarily think so far, right? By moving something as simple as we can look at this very simple process of
Yes.
maybe the performance management. We have forms. how do you disseminate that form? Oh, okay, so
Yes.
if you don't have enough money as an organization, because I'm aware some people might be extremely small, so you might not be able to afford maybe, an HRS, so but what little thing can we do to just make that process simpler? Your leave policy, just how people apply for leave and all of those things. How can you make it simpler? There are lots of tools out there, Bamboo HR, Seamless HR, lots of tools that I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
just make life better at a
Yeah.
very um cheap, not so expensive,
Yes. Yeah. I mean, definitely something we should look at because I mean, AI is about being faster, being, obviously helping us to be more productive. So technology, if you've not automated your administrative processes, you're
Mhm.
definitely doing it much slower. I remember having a discussion, maybe about 2 years ago with someone, and they were constantly recruiting. And and for me, it was the obvious solution was technology, but they couldn't see it. They were like, the resignations were so quick, and they were like, how can I get more CVs? How can I do it? And I'm thinking, you need to automate
But
this,
I'm telling you,
the only way you can be fast
yeah.
is if you have an automated recruitment system, not where can I get plenty CVs? Where can I get
Mm,
plenty?
it doesn't
You
work.
know,
It's
yeah.
stressful.
If
Mm,
people are sending 1,000 CVs to your email, or if people are even sending 50, that's a lot.
a
How
lot.
do you even sift through that? And then tomorrow, you have to advertise the role again
Very
and
exactly.
tell them to send their CVs again by email.
Very,
Why? That, for
it's-
me, if there's one process everyone should change, it must be recruitment.
I
If
agree with you. I
applicant
agree.
tracking system, it
Yes.
just creates unnecessary administrative work. You can't track the people who have been interviewed. You can't move them to the next stage, quickly. You can't, the next time you have recruitment, you can't pull out those CVs again quickly, so those type of things are definitely that. So I think we've looked at a lot of these ones. I don't think anyone has asked about strikes and industrial action. Where's that coming from, that trend on strikes and industrial? Do you want to shed more light on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. As people get more frustrated with the system, right? So what would typically happen is that there'll be a demand. So what we find now as a trend, and this more importantly for organizations who are unionized, right? So what we found is that there is that, going back to go and negotiate the collective bargaining agreement again
I
and
see.
saying, you know what, this is what our demands are now. The business is saying, you can't
Yeah.
be making this demand. This is our reality. And they say, no, we are not agreeing. And then so somehow, so they say, okay, we're down to until you're able to answer us, and we try to find the middle ground, right? So that's what we found. And
Yeah.
really, those conversations are heating up. And so in the
Yeah.
course of the year, except something is done, because there'll be that pressure in businesses or demand to do something around pay and better welfare for employees. And
Okay.
they'll be businesses will look at this vis-a-vis what they can afford. So yes.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, definitely, I could see how that will work, especially with the whole economic, I
Oh
don't know
yes.
what to even call it. Is it a downturn? I don't even know. What are we in? Are we in what are we in? Is
Well,
it a recession or a downturn or a
so,
crisis? I'm not even sure. What are we
so
in?
well, it's a crisis really, because
Because
at
I've
the
not heard the word recession like
no, no, no,
used.
no.
So
If you're
what's
going to use for a
the
recession,
combination?
it's a combination. Yes, we are getting there,
Okay.
but we are being
Okay.
assured that we are not going to get there. We're going to be
Okay.
put out. Like I think this morning, I read in
Yeah.
the news, the CBN governor was saying that things are done such that by before the end of this year, that the exchange rates will drastically improve, and that oil prices will come down with Dangote
Okay.
refinery now starting production and then Port Harcourt refinery also. So there is that optimism in the atmosphere that with certain reforms, things will get better and we'll get into a recession. So, but I think we're in
Fantastic.
a crisis. That is clear. And even the president will tell
Wow.
you,
We are in an economic crisis. So that's a new way
yes.
of putting it. Okay. I see someone is asking for maybe recommendations. I think after the session, we generally send an email. There's currently a promo free trial version of HR software being run by a partner firm called Cloud and Lee. So we will send a link if you want to try HR software, even if that's what you want to do 2024. I think it will go a long way. Yeah. So there's a question from Grace on if management, okay, where's Grace's question? I was just seeing it, but I think it said something about what about when it management are the cause of the employee turnover? Is that what it, I didn't see, I was reading it and then it just went up. I think that was what she said. Yes, that what if management are the cause of the employee turnover?
Well, if management are the cause, that's a
What's the way
difficult
out?
one.
Yes, that's
What's
what
the
she
way
said.
out?
Yeah.
You know, the truth is, like I would always say, right? For any transformation, any change to happen, there has to be leadership buy-in, and that's the truth. Once there's no leadership buy-in, as the HR person, is either you're convincing them to buy in, to get their buy-in, and if that is not possible, it's a difficult terrain to navigate.
Mm.
There's really nothing you can do, right? Except you leave, you go somewhere else where you know that your voice will be heard, right? But you must be sure that it's not by virtue of a skill deficiency on your part, right? So what I
Yeah.
would always say is, I mean, technically, if you have an HR person and you discover that management are the reason for the issue, there are very tactical ways without if you can't tell them to their face that you people are the problem, you know, there are tactical ways to do this. Say, want to develop a leadership development program for the leaders. And in that leadership development program, you're infusing, because I've seen this happen before, you infuse a lot of things around emotional intelligence, empathy, and all of those things deliberately. And you make sure they attend those programs and show them that it's for their good, for the future, and show them the connection between all of that and the bottom line, you know? And so those are some of the things you can do. But again, let's see. I mean, if you've exhausted all of that and they are just refusing to change, because I've also seen that happen before, at that point, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. I think we have some questions on, but they generally just seem to be around HR. Like someone is asking a question on recruitment, getting good talent. Someone else is asking, a question on, just generally how to manage their performance management system. I think what I would say to those is that we have other sessions that will be geared and more focused on those areas. And some of them even actually sound like training or like competency gaps, which if you follow us, we would definitely have sessions that cover those. I want to look for a question around maybe the trends. Is there anything anyone can do around recruitment to get good talents? That's a question by Shegun. Omolara says she has a question, but I didn't see, I don't know, we've had a lot of questions moving up. I can't find her question. But Lara, if you want to type it again, yeah. So just generally, because I think we just have a minute now. Yeah. Yeah. So we will be sending some. If somebody's asking for affordable standalone ATS software you would recommend to automate a recruitment process, we will send quite some information in the recording. We would send the recording to everyone who wants to watch, and we'll send some information for what we can recommend. Yeah. Thank you. So can we have any last words from you, Joshua, before we close the session? And maybe before we close, the session, just to tell everyone to look out for the next Stay Trendy. This has been a really good, of course, the attendance is fantastic. It was over 250 people. Hey, Joshua, I don't know. Like everyone just wanted to hear. No, everybody just wanted to hear what is happening. Like no one wants to be left behind, right?
I agree.
At the end of the year, everybody wants to know what's up. Yeah. So do you have any last words of, hey, it's positioning yourself for 2024?
Okay. I mean, I would say my last words would be number one, thank you so much, Adora, for the opportunity. I appreciate that thoroughly.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And thank you, everyone. for joining, and the team, to Tomisi and everyone. Thank you so much.
I will be talking. Oh, we always don't worry. I'll talk.
No worries.
No, yeah. So
No
it's
worries
been
at
a
all.
pleasure, and sorry if anyone we couldn't answer your question, but we're going to try as much as possible to put quite a number of things in the links. Please look out for some of our sessions in the chat. Some of the sessions coming up a lot, Kendo, we do a lot of learning and development programs like this. And we present you with, this is Stay Trendy, so that you're not left behind. Don't say we did not tell you. So thank you very much, Joshua. We'll be in touch and, have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adora. Thank you, everyone.
Follow us on social media. You can follow Joshua, search for his name. You can follow me, obviously. You can follow Kendor. If you were following Kendor, you would definitely have seen this program or the webinar invite. We have a session coming up in February on metrics and analytics, February 27. If that's an area that you are still struggling with, this is a very, very simple program that will definitely help you. So bye to everyone.
Bye.
And enjoy.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Feel free to join us next month for the next edition of Stay Trendy.
Bye.
Thank you.